Don't think I've ever done anything this ambitious in a live before. If you are new here, my name is Laura. I am the handcrafter behind Dark Moon Dice. This channel is our live stream channel, which is why I'm doing it here and not over on Dark Moon Dice. This is kind of like, we've done one episode last week, we got another episode coming up tonight, and this is Darkness and Dragons, which we are playing a homebrew D&D campaign for mature audiences. So the next episode is tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or midnight GMT. If you are in England and still awake at that time, please come join us over on Twitch at Darkness and Dragons. What I'm doing today is I'm going to be making some dice based off of one of our characters, Eliwick. I'm going to go through all of my supplies and everything that I have set up and stuff so that you can see what I'm doing. This is also a little bit of a lesson in efficiency because aside from making 2 sets of Eliwick dice, I'm also going to be making 3 other sets. My pressure pot holds about 5 sets in total, so rather than just doing 2 and putting them in like the 2 Eliwick sets, I'm going to be making as many as I possibly can while I have the resin up and ready and going. I'm going to smash them all out at once. And I'll tell you a little bit how I kind of managed to do that and how I plan that out. Before that, just some quick safety stuff. Normally when I'm not recording, and if you are a dice maker, make sure you're wearing your respirator that filters organic vapors. So normally I wear this even though the resin that I use has no VOCs, but even then, better safe than sorry, right? Or if you're sanding dice or anything like that, make sure you get your respirator on. Gloves, make sure they are nitrile powder, right? Make sure that you have those. Other than that, I'm using, because I have sweaty hands, I use hand and skin shield liquid gloves on days where my hands are really super sweaty and I can't wear gloves. This is what I use instead. Other than that, all you're going to need is I'm going to be doing 3 colors. I'm going to be altering them as I pour though. You'll see that as I go along. So I have 3 cups, 3 stir sticks. I have a scale so that I can weigh the resin that I'm using needs to be weighed. It's 1-to-1 ratio by weight. And I'm going to be using 3 pipettes. The other supplies that I have, I'm going to be using, this is Jacquard white alcohol ink. I have the bottle here because I'm going to be turning one of my cups opaque. I have a syringe here filled with it, and this is just a needle tip syringe because I'm going to be injecting it to get some kind of those like wavy lines. If you've seen this kind of style that I've done before, this one I think was called Glacier Breeze, where the white kind of travels down throughout it, makes it look icy. I'm going to be going for that kind of a style. You are going to need, for what I'm doing here, you're going to need some tweezers. I'm going to be using Silver Flake. I'm also using 2 color shift pigments. This is a blue purple shift and this is a greeny gold shift. I'm going to be combining those 2. That's the closest I found that gives the kind of borealis effect. You need both of those colors to get that kind of rainbow type of shimmer. If you want just the blue purple, that's great, or if you want just the green gold, that's also great. But I'm going to be mixing those 2. I'm going to be using a little bit of this. It's called Jack Frost. It's by Glitter Stella. I got these on eBay, which is just a kind of silvery snowflake kind of glitter. Then I also have Sapphire Blue Pinata alcohol ink, and I also have Mantilla Black. Okay, so that's all the supplies. I am going to put this onto the Darkness and Dragons YouTube, so if you've missed anything or if you want to rewatch it or slow it down or pause it or anything like that, you can absolutely do that. So I'm going to be making 2 sets of Eliwick dice. I'm going to show you how I place the Silver Flake in there, and then I'm going to be doing a set of translucent with gold, and I'm going to be doing 2 sharp edge sets that are smoke with copper flake. So I've set up most of my molds already because that's a bit tedious to watch. So I have placed, using my tweezers, I'm going to show you how I do it, placed the flake into my molds. Now I find that that's the best way to get the flake not to sink. I have heard of people who will mix them into their resin. I don't do that. I find that it all kind of just pools down at the bottom. So I use tweezers and I place it kind of sticking it to the inside, and I'll show you how I do that. Right. So I think we're just going to get started. So I'm going to tilt the camera down and let me put my hair back because let me tell you, resin in your hair, bad idea. Make sure you're wearing clothes that you don't like. I use a paper towel to wipe off any kind of excess that comes out of the cut in the mold. I have a towel on my lap, and then you're going to need some tape. And that's about it. If you are interested in a tutorial about how I make my molds, all of that is on the Dark Moon Dice channel on YouTube. So if you're interested in how I do that, then you can go over there and watch that as well. So I got my cups and my gloves. What I'm going to show you first is how I place my flake into my mold. I've done all the other ones that are all set up here. I'll show you that. But what I do is, and again, this is like pretty easy, but I know a lot of people mix their flake into their resin, and that's not how I do it. So if you're having a problem with your flake sinking, then this is definitely something else that you can try. So I just kind of pry my mold apart, and this is also where I pour into, and I'm just going to use my tweezers to pick up some smaller flakes. I'm going to try without spilling the whole container. And then all I do is I just kind of lay them on the inside nice and gently and kind of tap them down, and then that will stick on the inside of your mold there. So when you pour, you're going to have that flake stuck to that side. It just means it's not all going to end up at the bottom. So I just kind of place them around all the different sides. Some kind of I leave a little bit loose on the edges so that will float throughout the dice. But I do place kind of every single flake by hand, which if your comment is going to be that's a pain in the ass, then you are absolutely right. You're wondering what that sound is. That's the central line. The tube runs directly behind our house. So if you're wondering, that's what it is. So I just use my tweezers to kind of place along the inside. Do not breathe too heavily or else this is all going to go flying. To place the bits of silver flake into the mold through the cut, kind of like that. So just picking up small flakes and placing them around the inside. And I've done this with all my molds. Every single one. Now it's up to you how much you want to put in there. I tend to go a little bit sparingly, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of colors. You don't want to obscure the colors with so much flake, but if that's what you're going for, then absolutely. So these are my sharp edge molds. In these two, I have done some copper flake. So these 2 sets are going to be smoked with copper. This set here is going to be translucent with gold flake. And then these 2 sets here are going to be my Ellie Rick dice. So I'm going to be making 5 sets in total. These 3 are going to be kind of for my sale. These 2 are going to be, well, one's going to go to Sarah, who plays Ellie. And then one's going to be given away on our Twitch channel. Same thing, I'm going to be making some penny dice as well. And then I'm going to be doing a giveaway for those also. So that's exciting. Right, so now that all of my molds are set up and all I've done is I've just gone through and just placed the flake in all the molds. That's it. So other than flake in those molds, there's nothing else in there. So those are pretty much ready to go. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out my resin. So let me get my gloves on. And if my hands do start sweating a lot, I will at some point have to remove my gloves and I'll put my hand shield on instead. But for the moment, they seem okay, but we'll see how it goes. Right, so I'm just going to tar my scale out and I'm going to pour equal amounts of A and B in. I'm going to be doing 3 colors. I'm going to be doing a smoke translucent, I'm going to be doing a light blue opaque, and I'm going to be doing a dark blue translucent. So I don't actually, I kind of just eyeball If I have leftovers, I use it, you know, kind of 40 and tar it out. Tar. Am I even saying that right? If I have leftovers, I put them into this giant D20 mold, like in layers. So that's what I do with my leftovers. And okay, so it's 3 in the worst measure. So I'm just gonna do another like splash of A. There, yeah, that's close enough. Okay, so that's going to be one color. I'll mix that afterwards. Same thing with my next one. Tire it out. Let me get a fresh bottle. I do the same thing, about 40 and 40. Better to have too much than not enough. If I was smart, I would actually measure exactly how much I need, but I'm not. 40 A and 40 of B. I don't think I've ever done this bit on video. Usually I kind of skip this. I found like as long as they're close enough, they'll be fine. And then my last one, so this is going to be my smoke. So this one I'm going to do just slightly more because I'm going to be using it to fill these 3 as well as being used in those 2. I know that probably sounds a bit confusing, but you'll see what I mean as I go along. So I'm going to do maybe quite a bit more anyway. Quite a bit more. Let's see what I want. I'm gonna do, yeah, let's do 68 and 68. That sounds good. And then if I run low, I mean, I can always re-pour or pour some more in there. So another 68. And then this is when the countdown starts before things start gelling. 8 and 60, 68 and 69. That'll do. Okay. All right. So I'm going to set my bottles to the side. Scale is going to go away, and then we are going to mix these and we are going to start making our colors. Now, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing the larger cup, the cup that I put extras into, because before I start doing the Ellawick dice, I'm going to use this larger cup to fill these 3 molds in 2 different styles of dice. Now, this is the strategy that I usually use when I'm making more than 1 set of dice, but I don't want to make the same set 5 times. I kind of just pour and then I alter the colors as I'm making another set. So I start with clear, and then to the clear I can add some black and then make it smoke. Or I'll start with like a light blue and then I can add some more to make a dark blue. It's a lot easier than having to pour multiple cups. So this is where I'm going to start. Now into this, I am going to put both of these. These are like the nail pigments, the really, really fine pigmented glitter. Got those on Amazon, and I seem to have misplaced my little scooper. Let me find another scooper. But they're all just these like nail pigments. Some are Born Pretty, but that's kind of what you're looking for, the really, really fine glitter. If you're looking to get that, what I would call like the Chessex Borealis effect, that kind of rainbow type of glitter. Now you don't need a whole heck of a lot, though I do like things quite sparkly, so I probably use more than the average person. And that's my blue purple color shift, and this is my green gold color shift. Okay, and that is done. And then I'm going to mix that up. And then this is going to be my first pour. So I'm going to use just this clear with the glitter nice and mixed in. And I'm going to be doing this set here, which is going to be translucent and it has gold flake in it. And that's going to be my first set that I'm going to pour. And then I'm going to work in the same cup. I'm going to change the color to smoke, and then I'm going to pour these two, which are going to be smoke with copper. So, but for now, we are pretty much good to go with this one. So I'm going to stick my pipette in and it's going to start sucking that up. And while that's doing that, I'm going to mix up my other two resins. So depending on temperature, resins with a 24-hour cure time generally have about a 40-minute work time before it starts to gel. So you have about 40 minutes to get your dice sorted before your resin will start to thicken up and get a little bit difficult to work with. Now, gelling can be good if you're trying to float large chunks of glitter in it. Glitters like this, you don't have to worry about it. They are so fine that no matter when you put them in, they will not sink, they will stay dispersed. But if you're trying to keep really chunky glitter from sinking to the bottom, then you're gonna wanna wait a while. You're gonna wanna wait until your resin starts to thicken up, then pour your glitter in to your resin and then inject it into your molds. So those two are ready to go, and I'm gonna start pouring my first ones. Now again, this is really not a super interesting part. I pour in through my cut like that. I hope you can all see this. Again, I'm not pulling at my mold, I'm not tearing at them, I'm just kind of opening the cut and pouring in through the side until it's almost full. I squeeze, and if there's any kind of goo off the side, I just wipe it off with a paper towel, and I use a small piece of tape to cover the cut. Then in the top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of squeeze a little bit, right? So you can see if there's any bubbles, big air bubbles coming out. I mean, the pressure pot can only do so much, right? And then I top up the reservoir, okay? If your resin shrinks, especially if you're using art resin or something like that, top that reservoir up. If there's any bubbles that come out, that will sink in, and make sure you're not getting dice with huge, giant pits in the top of them. Right, so same thing for my D4. Close the cup, wipe off a little, and a little piece of tape. And give a little squeeze, make sure there's no bubbles down in there. That's important to do if you have any kind of inclusions in there, whether it's flake or stuff like that. Air can get trapped in there, so make sure that you're giving it a little squeeze. Make sure all the air is out. Next one. Go. Over the cut. Same thing, give a little squeeze at the top, make sure there's no air bubbles coming out, and fill our reservoir. And that is going to be how I do the first set. These ones I'm going to ink in gold. I think they're going to look really kind of pretty, simple, Christmassy, which is kind of what I was going for. I mean, I've gone real extra on what I'm doing for Ellie's dice. So I figured for what I make for the other ones, I can probably afford to go a little bit simpler. All right, pouring into my D6. Sometimes that takes a couple of pipettes. If you're just joining, just a heads up that I can't see the comments. If you have comments, just save them to the end, or questions or anything like that. I'll wipe my little cut there. Little piece of tape and little squeezy, make sure there's no bubbles coming out of the top, and then top up my reservoir. D20, same thing, pouring in through the cut, filling up again. And this is how you smash out 5 sets of dice in a row. After this, we're going to change the color of this one, and we're going to make it smoke. Generally, it's easiest if you try and do like a one color palette, because you can always like darken or add things to blue. But if you're doing blue, I mean, you can add pink and then you'll make purple. So you're not really stuck with just one color just because that's what you've poured. You can always change it as you're pouring, and then do pour of one color, remix it, then pour of another color, like a layered effect. All right, a little squeezy squeezy, and fill the reservoir. Okay, so now what I do is I just empty my pipette the best I can, since I'm only doing that one set in just the translucent. All right, and I'm going to use the same pipette because we don't like wasting. We don't want to make more rubbish than we absolutely have to. So I'm just going to set that down. I've just got some paper down on my desktop, just in case there's kind of resin drops or spills or whatever. And now I'm going to take this clear and I'm going to turn it into smoke. I always say start slow. One drop. Seriously, do not go overboard. You can always add more later, but you cannot take it away. Okay, so start very, very sparingly. Take a look at the color. This is why I like to use clear cups, because you get a really, really good idea of the shade that's coming through on a clear cup. Much better than you do if you have a colored cup. But if you're just pouring with something clear, then you can absolutely use a colored cup, like a Bread Solo cup. Do you know what? And I'm going to do just one small drop more. And that's going to be my smoke color. Now also remember that the depth of this cup is much deeper than it will be in the dice molds. So once they're in dice, this will be a lot more translucent than it might be looking in the cup here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to use that same pipette because we're reusing things, and I'm going to put my black away. I like to kind of try and put things away as I go. Now you can see here when it's pulling up through the pipette how much lighter it looks. It's also a good indication of the color. So it looks much, much darker here in the cup than it does in the pipette. And that's the type of smoke shade that we're going for. And some of this, honestly, I've just kind of figured out through trial and error. So my next two sets here are going to be smoke with copper flake, because I'm getting 5 sets done. I think these are going to be so pretty. I've done smoke with copper flake before, but I hadn't done it again in a while. So I thought this is the perfect opportunity because I'm going to be using smoke in Ellie's set. So I was like, oh, well, if I get some extra resin, then I can do some smoke with copper sets while I do Ellie's sets. So that was my goal. So again, just pouring through the cut, making sure there's no bubbles coming out the top, making sure that I fill my reservoir at the top nicely. And I know I'm working pretty quick, but remember, we got a 40-minute window on this before it starts to gel, and we got lots more to do. So working efficiently is really important when you're trying to get multiple sets done. And I'm doing 5 here. So we really want to be able to work smart. Okay, so D6. I mean, these ones pour relatively simply because I've already put the copper flake in. So there's not a whole heck of a lot to do. You'll see that Ellie's sets is a lot more kind of detail work in each individual set with multiple layers and multiple pours. But these ones, once you have your copper flake in there, it's basically just pour it up, get it filled, get it done. Which is another kind of strategy I like to use if I am doing a couple more complicated sets and I want to do multiple. I do try and usually make them, the other sets, a little bit more simple, only because if you are trying to pour 5 really complicated, really layered sets, then you're going to struggle a little bit with time. And I've gotten to the point where, you know, my resin has started to gel and things are getting difficult to pour, and I mean, and that just ends in kind of wasted resin. So kind of the planning of what you're going to be doing with all your sets is as important as the actual designs. So I have kind of a really strict idea of what I'm going to be making, and I write it all out. Does that sound obsessive? Probably. Is it? Probably. You will. Yeah. So we're almost done our other 2 sets, and then we're on to the Eliwick dice. And that's where the fun really starts. Okay. I'd say like if you're like a beginner dice maker, the type of Ellie set that I'm going to do might be a little bit challenging, but I am also very much the person who jumps right in. So if you're like me and you're like, I can do this, go for it. Go for it. You know, why? You know, might as well give it your best. I have zero patience. Zero patience for learning and taking time whatsoever. All right. So I'm just going to keep going. These are my sharp edge sets here. I like to have a mix. I found once I got my master's done for my sharp edge dice, I realized how much I actually prefer rounded edge dice. I know sharp edges right now are such a popular choice, but don't know, for me, I just like the rounded ones better. Yeah, but it's business, right? It's not about me. It's not about me. It's what you want, not what I want. Okay. And almost done. I've ripped this mold, my little D4 mold. Shame. It's all right. Should get me through till after Christmas when I come back. I'm going to Canada for Christmas in, what is it, not even 2 weeks. So I'll be out of the country, out of dice making for the holiday season until I'm back. It's okay. It'll be a nice break. And then I'll be able to set everything up for the Kickstarter. There we go. Okay. So what's left here is going to be used in the Eliwick sets. And now I'm going to make my other 2 colors. Now one of them is going to be, see how easy that was? So now I've done 3 sets and now I'm going to work on my Ellie dice. So we're going to do smoke, translucent, then I'm going to inject a little bit of the white Pinata alcohol ink. One is going to be light blue opaque, so we're going to make that one first. Then I'm going to put a little bit of glitter in there, and then we're going to do a dark blue translucent, and that will have some glitter in it as well. So that's about it. And looking at this, I have made way too much resin, but that's okay. This is my jumbo D20 mold. So any leftover resin I have, I pour into here, and then I make just really pretty kind of like layered D20s. Right, okay, so light blue. Okay, so I'm going to do just a splash of the white Pinata alcohol ink. And again, like I said, start small, 1 drop, okay? Mix it, then see what it looks like. Don't go crazy. You can always add more, but you cannot take it away. Right. Trying to figure out how light blue do I want to go. I want to make the dark blue quite dark, so I think I'm going to make the light blue quite light. I mean, I don't want it to look like, okay, no, just one more drop. Okay. I mean, a lot of this is kind of, I mean, you can have the plan in your mind, but does that mean, you know, it's going to come out as you imagine? Not always. Okay. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so I have my smoke, I have my light blue, and this is going to be my translucent dark blue. Into this, I'm going to put some more of that blue purple color shift glitter. Just the blue purple, because I have both of them in there. So I don't need to do both necessarily. So some of that blue purple color shift. And I'm actually thinking, while I have my drawer open, I might put some. Okay, this is just like a silvery powder. No color shift, just straight up fine silver. Okay, so let's start with 1, 2, 3 drops. I make a lot of blue dice, so I'm aware of how 3 drops is going to come out as. And let's mix that in. Okay. Got some glitter stuck to the side there, so I'm just going to scrape it all down. I actually think I want that darker. So I'm going to do another 3. I want this to be quite blue, like a really kind of deep sapphire, so that it's a lot of contrast to the light blue and the smoke. But the light blue is going to go in between the smoke and the darker blue. Okay, I think I like that. So those are my 3 Eliwick colors. If you're just started watching, inside there's already Silver Flake. Okay. Oh, yeah, let's not do that. And then I'm going to get my little bag of glitter ready, because this is going to go in between the layers. If you're thinking to yourself, holy crap, that's a lot, then yeah, you're right. You're right. Is it a bit overkill? Probably. Is Ellie a bit overkill? Probably. All right. I mean, there's no guarantee this is even going to look nice. So when I pull them tomorrow, if they come out absolute crap, then I apologize that you've spent your time sitting here and watching this. Right, coffee. Okay, so this is what I call my snow cone style. It is usually a 3-color mix. It's either 2 opaque and 1 translucent, or 2 translucent and 1 opaque. And that's what I'm doing here. Smoke, light blue, dark blue, and those are the ones that I'm going to mix. The order I'm going to pour them in is I'm going to do smoke first, then I'm going to inject the white, then I'm going to do the light blue opaque, I'm going to put some of the glitter in, and then I'm going to do the dark blue translucent, and that is the end of that. So let's get pouring. Right, so first up is going to be a little bit of smoke at the bottom. Then I'm going to now squeeze gently. We don't want a lot. Just kind of like a drop, okay? That's it, right? A drop of the white. Then I'm going to do you know what I'm actually going to do? I might let those sit. That's what I'm going to do. Sometimes it helps that white to kind of sink down if you wait. So I'm going to do the other 2 pours afterwards. So I'm going to do just my translucent, my smoke. I'm going to do my little drop of white in there with my needle, and then I'm going to let it sit. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish them. Okay, so a little bit of smoke. And this is just something that I learned like while I've been making, that sometimes if you just let the white sit, then it starts to sink down, because that's what you really want, those like finger tendrils, right? That's what we're looking for. So I'm going to start with just the smoke in the bottom, and then like maybe 1 or 2 small drops of the white alcohol ink from the syringe. And then I'm going to go back, and then I'm going to do my pours with the other 2 colors. So a little bit of smoke, couple drops of the white, like that. And then hopefully that white will start to sink down through the black. D4s are really tricky. It's really, really easy to over pour in there. So go extra, extra easy into your D4s, because we do want to get all 3 layers in. If not, you're just going to have 2 layers in your D4, and that's not what you want. Okay. A little drop of white there. And I'm going to go and do my next set, because I'm making 2 Eliwick sets. Smoke in the bottom. Couple drops of white, and let it rest so that it sinks. And again, like learning that if you let it sit for a minute, like that was just trial and error. Like that was just kind of what I learned while I've been making dice for years now. So that's kind of just what I learned as I was going along when things weren't working out. And I was like, oh, well, what if I do this? What if I do that? And I have made like a ton of shitty dice. So if you are there and you are making crappy dice, don't worry, it gets better. It's all part of learning. Okay. And again, I apologize for working so quickly. This will be on the Darkness and Dragons YouTube channel, not on the Dark Moon Dice. Because I'm making character specific dice, I'm going to put it over there. So if you need to go back and rewatch it or pause or anything like that, I'm also going to put it there. So if anyone has questions or anything like that, you can always ask there. A couple of drops of the white. Okay. And last one is my D20. Couple drops of the white. And I think I've already planned. I'm going to ink these in copper. I think that really goes with Ellie's theme. So that's basically, I'm going to just empty my pipette out because it tips my cup over if I don't. But we're basically done with the smoke, so I'm just going to set that to the side. My blue can go away. Okay. Right, so the next step is going to be the light blue opaque, and then I'm going to put some glitter in, and then I'm going to do the dark blue translucent. All right, so back to our molds. Oh, can you see how it's sunk? Oh, can you see how the white started to sink? Perfect, that's exactly what I wanted. Okay, right, so next step is pouring down the side of my mold. I'm gonna put a little bit of that light blue in. This is where you probably need more than like one set of hands, but we're gonna make it work. I'm not gonna put a whole lot of glitter in, just a little kind of sprinkle there. Ellie's from like a cold country, so that's supposed to kind of mimic the idea of snow and frost. And then finally, I'm going to top up over top of that glitter with my darker blue. Close, wipe the cut, little piece of tape, and then I'm going to use the darker blue translucent at the top to fill that reservoir. And that is one done. And we're just going to keep going. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to do, pouring down the side, a little bit of the light blue. I'm going to sprinkle in just a touch of that glitter. And then I'm going to pour down over that with the dark blue. Close the mold, wipe the cut, and a little piece of tape over the cut, and then top up the reservoir. I'm so excited to see these. Waiting, it's the worst part. It's the worst part. Okay, so down the side of my mold, light blue, a little sprinkle in of the snowy Jack Frost glitter down the side, and then finish by topping up, pouring down the side with my darker blue. Close the cut, wipe off any excess, little piece of tape, and we're just going to keep going. That's the end of that. I mean, it's relatively easy, but I mean, within that time, this will have made us five glorious sets of dice. Not bad, right? A little bit of blue. I wish these came in pots. It'd be a whole lot easier to scoop. A little bit of glitter and topping up with the darker blue. And I really hope Sarah likes these. I think they're going to be really, definitely, certainly very unique. A little extra? Probably. Do I need to do 3 colors plus glitter plus silver flake plus white Petrie? Probably not. Did I do it anyway? Yeah, I did. Never. You can never have too much glitter. You know? Not a thing. Not possible. Okay. All right. Close. And do a little squeezy. Make sure that there's no bubbles coming out. Though I do cast in a pressure pot, so for most kind of minor bubbles, it's not a problem. They'll shrink down the pressure pot. A little bit of blue. This is the D4, so being really careful not to overfill it, because if you put too much, then you're not going to get like all 3 of those layers, which is what you really want. All 3 layers. Okay. Pinch, wipe, tape, squeeze, and fill. Right. And light blue. Pouring down the side. And this is why I always have glitter all over me. It's constant. Constant glitter. And dark blue. I already have a plan for the penny dice. If you watched the first episode of Darkness and Dragons, Penny now has a skull, which she has called Brian, from a guy who, well, I'm going to blame Ellie for cutting off his head. I'm not going to take responsibility for that one. But yeah, so Penny took the head with her. So I'd had like a plan for her dice, and now I was like, well, now that she's got Brian, she named him Brian, and no, she doesn't see anything weird about that. Now that she's got Brian, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have to put skulls in her dice now. So I've kind of rejigged my plan. I was actually going to do the penny dice first, but I was like, well, no, gotta have Brian in there now. So I'm going to make those on this channel next, and they will have skulls in them. So if you're interested in, I mean, I've done a whole bunch of different sets with dice, but like if you're interested in dice that have skulls in them, then come back for Penny's dice, because those are going to have skulls. Penny, such a sweet girl, and yet she's carrying around a head. Oh boy. I think tonight's episode is going to have some much more bad stuff going on. We kind of spent like a lot of the first episode like getting to know like the characters and stuff, and there's like a lot of NPCs, there's a lot of stuff going on, and now I think we're getting into some of the more like dangerous parts of the game, which should be exciting and also traumatic. If you haven't watched, or if you're planning to watch, it is kind of very adult centered, so kind of not your standard nice D&D heroes, you know, killing bad guys. It's a lot more complicated, a lot more to it. But if you're looking for a new game to check out, and I mean, you're already here. But yeah, so it's on tonight. But if you are, we have trigger warnings up before the game starts. So just make sure you kind of pay attention to those, because there are some mature themes in there. So if that's something that you're unsure of, then check it out. But if it's something that sounds like it's up your alley, something a little more adult D&D, then swing by. The second set of these Ellie dice are going to be up for grabs in the next Twitch stream, obviously once I've pulled them and inked them and finished them. And the same thing with the penny dice. Those will also be done in a giveaway. And if you can't watch live on Twitch, it is uploaded on Saturdays to YouTube. There will be a podcast happening as well, but we just got to work out exactly when that's going to go. So if you're looking for something new, our whole kind of plan was like, there's so many like, you know, regular D&D streams, and it's like, oh, another dragon, another monster. We want to do something a bit more gritty, was our goal. All right. So here is the last one. And yeah, definitely have more resin than I needed, but that is okay because I'm going to put it in my giant D20 mold. Or if you have like any other molds, like extra leftover resin, I mean, we don't want to waste it because resin is expensive. I mean, you can, again, and like I said, you can change these colors. You can make these into a purple, right? By adding some pink in here. So you're not stuck with blues. Like you can change these colors into something else rather than just being stuck with working with blue. But it's about taking your resins and turning them into other colors so that you're not making the same thing kind of over and over and over again. All right. Then, okay, so you're gonna come with me. You're gonna come with me to my pressure pot. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop those in. I cast at about 50, depending on how lazy I am. There it is. All right. So all I do is you can kind of see in there, I just kind of line them up around the outside. This is just a piece of cardboard that I put in. Once it starts to get a bit gross, I just take it out and I change it. That's basically all there is to it. I like having things that I can like just pull out and change. Like even my desktop that like, it looks like marble. It's just a sticker. It's a big giant sticker and then I just pull it off and my desk is clean and then I can put another one on there. So I'm just trying to arrange them nicely so that nothing is spilling and nothing is going to fall over. And that's about that. So they'll sit in the pot for 24 hours. That's a soft cure. And I'll pull them out. I'll take them out of the mold. I will cut these sprues off and then they will sit until they are fully cured, which is at 72 hours. So they'll sit for like another 2 days after that. And then I will sand them and paint them and polish them and do all that fun stuff. I do have, I think I did a live yesterday on Dark Moon Dice about how I trim the sprues off. I mean, it's nothing really complicated, but if you were over there and you wanted to see me trimming the sprues off of those Christmas snow cone dice, then that is up over there still. I'm gonna pop my lid on. Okay. There we go. This is my beautiful pressure pot. Going to, and there's my dog coming to bark at this. He absolutely hates the pressure pot. Hates it. Hates it, hates it, hates it. Hates the sound, and as soon as he hears like the sounds of the wing nuts, he's in here and ready to bark. Okay. Okay. Oh, it's hard to do with one hand. Sorry. I am going to go back through the comments, so if you've left something, I promise, but I do like to get these in and get them under pressure as soon as I possibly can. Okay, this is the air compressor that I'm using. It is KK Moon. It's just an airbrush compressor. Really, really easy. It's not turned on. Yes, there we go. Small, quiet. Works pretty easy. And then you can see the dial starts to go up. And I'll go to about 50 and then I will turn it off. Not too bad, right? Okay, so there we go. 5 sets of dice. 5 sets of dice smashed out. Okay, not too bad, right? Again, like I said, it's I usually do like a lot of planning, like a lot of prep. Like I am ready with the styles that I'm going to do. I know which ones I'm going to do first, especially if I'm altering colors. So I start with like, if I'm doing a clear set, start with the clear set, and then I can change that clear into, like you saw here, smoke, and then I use that smoke color as one of the layers in the Eliwick dice. But again, if you were doing that with clear or with blue, you could do a set in clear, then tint the resin to blue, and then do a set in blue, then add some pink to that, and then you could make that resin purple. So it's not about having like the same color over and over and over again, or making the same set of dice over and over and over again, but planning out kind of like in steps how you're going to alter the colors as you go along. Or if you have one in blue translucent, then add some white. Then you have blue opaque. Or like you saw me do in my layers, you can do layers in with like a translucent into the bottom of your molds, then switch the color of your resin to an opaque, and then pour on top of that. So you'll have half translucent, half opaque. So there's lots of different ways that you can kind of work efficiently, making multiple different looking sets of dice rather than having to just kind of do everything all at once, if that makes sense. I hope that was helpful. I can fit 5 sets. You can, I have seen people do layers, my dad was gonna make me one. He's really good with like wood and stuff like that, with kind of like dowels and then layers. But the thing is that's really great that you can cast 70 sets at once. The fact is that you are then going to have to weight, sand, polish, ink, and clean all of those sets. Yeah, like a cupcake stand. I find personally about 5 sets a day is about as much as I can handle. Like I mean, if I had more than that, I just wouldn't have the time to get to them. Casting them is great, but don't forget that you have to finish those, right? Which is why I haven't yet, because I fit 5 sets in there, and then that's kind of, so I do 5 sets every day, if I don't fuck any up, of course. So I do 5 sets a day, and then I think that's kind of my max for actually hand making. So when I put 5 in, I pull 5 out, those will wait, and then my 5 from the previous day, then I'll sand those, ink those, paint those. So there's a lot of other steps other than just casting. Pressure pot is like, I cannot tell you. I mean, I made dice for a while without a pressure pot. It is worth every single penny. It's the best thing I own. I wish I'd got one sooner. Like I can't say enough good things about it. The price of it, I think, just in the weight of dice that I haven't ruined because it fixes the bubbles is worth it alone. I mean, I was throwing out dice constantly because of bubbles and stuff like that, and now it's not something that I have to worry about. Oh, you're on Twitch. We're on Twitch tonight. Twitch tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or midnight GMT if you are in England. The actual game is tonight, and Ellie will get her dice probably tomorrow. Do I shake them at all or tap them? Nope, no shaking, no tapping. That's what the pressure pot does. The pressure pot sorts it all out. So like I said, so for my extra resin, it all goes into a giant D20 mold. But I mean, if you have, like I said, any other molds, like get some like keychain molds. I know lots of people, I've seen other dice makers use their extra resin in like little figurines that they then put in with their dice sets. I'm not throwing it out. That is not going to happen. But you can put it into layers, into any sort of molds. Big molds like this, where every time you make dice, you put the extras into here. It doesn't have to be another dice mold. It could be anything. Molds for making keychains. I have a lot of these kind of molds here. These are for making what look like little gems, is what they look like. It's not getting thrown out. No way. No way. But yeah, so grab yourself kind of any kind of cheap silicone molds. I have molds for making coffin boxes. I'm going to turn my pressure pot off. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I told you, my dog hates the pressure pot. He hates it. Sorry, that was just me releasing the air from the air compressor canister. That's all that was. But pressure pot is full, lever is off, and it's just going to sit there for 24 hours. And that part is done. But yeah, you can use any kind of mold. I would never ever waste that, never pour it out. But I do have some other stuff that I'm going to try and kind of experiment with. But yeah, coffin box molds, like trinket box molds, those always look really cool when you do lots of different colors and layers and stuff like that. So yeah, get some other molds. Don't throw them out. Was there anything else that I missed? I think that was it. How do you get the flakes inside the molds without having them clumping or just falling to the bottom? I use tweezers. I know this is going to sound, it is at the beginning of the video. So if my explanation is shitty, then if you rewatch this after I finished it, it's one of the things that I go over at the very beginning of the video. I use tweezers and I grab each flake individually when my molds are empty, and I place them and press them to the inside of the mold. Yeah. I do show doing 2 molds. I did the rest of them because it is a bit tedious. I did do the rest of my molds before, but you should get the idea from those kind of 2 molds that I do in the beginning of this video. But yeah, it is done. Each flake is done individually, you know. Yeah. If it sounds tedious, it's because it is. It's not ideal, but I also like doing it that way because it is the way that you get the flake pressed nicely to the outside of your dice. If that's what you're going for, which is the style that I really like, I want to see that flake on the outside of the dice, then that's the way that you do it. Some of them, if you push kind of just the edge of a flake on and leave the rest of it kind of not pressed against the outside, then it will kind of be a little bit on the outside, and then you'll also see the bits floating through the inside, but that's how I do it. If you mix them into your resin, then you need to make sure that you've waited until it gels before you start pouring. That goes for putting in flake, putting in any sort of larger glitters, which is about kind of generally 40 minutes. You can almost feel it, okay? So when your resin is starting to, so you can see here, it hasn't been quite about 40 minutes, so my resin is still quite liquidy, okay? So we're not there yet. So if I was using this resin and I was trying to suspend flake, or if I was trying to suspend glitter in it, too thin still, you will notice that your resin will start to warm. When you feel your cup, if you have a nice thin cup like this, you feel your cup, your resin will start to feel warm. That's when you know the chemical reaction is happening. That's when you know gel is coming, okay? So you need to make sure that you're paying kind of really close attention to the consistency, and it is a bit of a quick timed thing. Okay, so I am just about out of time here. If you have more questions, there is a post there that says I'm making Ellie dice. Put it all in there. You can send DMs, absolutely. I'll let you know when this is posted up on to the Darkness and Dragons YouTube, so you can go and watch it there and put comments on there. But I got about 42 seconds remaining, so says the live timer. So I'm going to have to sign off, but always send me questions, send me comments. I'm always happy to help. I don't have secrets, so if you need dice making help, I will do what I can. Right. Oh yeah, and if you're here and if you enjoyed this video and if it helped at all, I do have a Kickstarter, Dark Moon Dice. It's got 9 days left, so please check that out. I would be so grateful. Thank you all so much for watching, and hopefully you tune in tonight for Darkness and Dragons live stream at 7. Goodbye.